So this is Joan Breibart, and it's May 9th, Body Conversations. I'm going to call this Protein, Glorious Protein. Of course, that's after the chant, the song in Oliver, the musical, Food, Glorious Food. Anyway, I think this will be the beginning of the end. Maybe just the end of the beginning. It takes so long for people to walk away from what to me is just obvious crap. But we have been hearing about protein and protein. And recently there was an article in the Washington Post, a major wellness legacy publication, of course, just like the New York Times and the LA Times, etc., and that they have to have an article on protein. So a woman named Teresa Tankins writes a long article. And of course, they have to immediately tell you how much you must have. And I think this one was 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. Oh, that means so much to everyone since we're great with the metric system in America, right? And we know exactly how many kilograms and everything else we're supposed to know. Well, we know then, or we should, and this is why I'm writing it, because I think the public will start to get the picture. It's been a long time, but it's coming now. I can see it. And walk away from reading the stuff. These wellness speeches are getting $2 a word. They're not going to stop writing it. And the newspapers are not going to stop publishing it because they don't know what else to do. They cannot tell the truth. They refuse to tell the truth. So some of the truth about protein, which of course is now in everything, including candy, ice cream is putting protein. Well, of course it's dairy, so it has protein, but whatever, is that Americans have always overeaten protein. And if you go back even 5 years, there's articles about don't eat too much protein because we're not exactly living on a diet of cauliflower and kiwi. What do we want to eat? Burgers, pizza, chicken, cheese on everything. Cheese, cheese, cheese. So it's kind of silly. We know that we don't undereat protein. But of course, they have to write an article. And yes, we're not getting enough protein from lentils. But why do we need protein? Well, this all came about because these drugs, for example, Ozempic, enabling people to actually lose weight permanently, where before, for 60 years, with every kind of diet and intermittent fasting and Weight Watchers and keto and whatever, it was just on the sort of the circular method. You went on the diet, you lost some weight, then you went off the diet, then you gained it back and probably more, and then you started some other routine. So it was, going in and out and in and out. But now people are actually losing weight permanently. And when you lose weight, you lose some muscle as well as fat. Everybody knows that. It's always been that way. But let's look at the people who are losing, who are using these drugs, many of whom are 50 to 100, even more pounds overweight. Those people are weightlifting every minute of every day. They have more muscle mass, probably, than any normal sized person, unless you're a bodybuilder, and then you're taking steroids, so who cares about that? But again, that would have been put in an article and nobody would say, oh, it's steroids, right? Because we never want to say anything other than to further this narrative where everybody can know what they should do and what they shouldn't do, and we increase the guilt. It's all about guilt. Anyway, so what happens is you never in any of these articles, and this one by Teresa Tankins about protein, no truth is there. It's just going on, pulling up statistics and pretending, never talking about, the fact that so what? You're actually losing weight, so you'll lose some muscle, which you probably have more than you ever needed, and you'll lose some fat, a lot of fat probably. And we're not really short of protein. We love protein in America. So it's a way to phone in an article for this woman to get maybe a couple $1,000, and for everybody else to be upset or nervous or worried because there's another thing telling you what you should be doing. What was interesting to me was, this all started for me a couple of weeks ago. I was watching Kristen McGee, who's a very well-known yoga and Pilates teacher, certified by Physical Mind, by the way. Anyway, she was in her kitchen, and she had pulled out of the refrigerator cottage cheese, and she was eating it and sort of making a face. And then she said something really funny, which is, I'm getting more pressure to eat protein now, and I think she's in her 50s, than I was when I was a teenager, when people were pushing drugs, as you know, has always happened. Kids want to try drugs, and there's peer pressure, right? Now, she lives in Idaho. I looked this up. I think they have 7,300 beef farms. I mean, people see beef there, cows, they eat it. And she knows that. She's smart. And, of course, cottage cheese has always been considered the ultimate diet food, which was because it was low in calories and would give you, I guess, protein and calcium or whatever. Who knows? It was a diet food. So anybody who was in diet mode grew to hate it. I always like it, long as it was small curd. And, I would eat it. I have a certain way of eating it. I like to have it with radishes and on certain crackers and drink an iced tea. But I don't rush out to buy something because it's healthy or what everyone's talking about. If I'm in the mood for something like that and I'm in a store and it's there and it's the kind I like, I'll buy it, right? But that kind of common sense and freedom and a relaxed point of view doesn't even exist. However, maybe it's coming, because what I found so interesting about this was that it was really interesting. When I started to go through the comments of this article, because I was going to leave a comment, of course, there were 450 before mine, and they were almost all negative. I mean, I could sum them up by saying, stop phoning this in, get lost, we're sick of it. And I remembered right before Jane Brody of the New York Times, the nutrition guru who made a fortune with her nutrition books and had this huge platform of the New York Times, and who, as far as I'm concerned, is, along with Oprah, two of the major characters in making America fat. They should be indicted. Anyway, she was getting comments. She would be writing something, again, all about the science and the nutrition and the blah, blah, blah. And people who had been reading her for 40 years said, you used to say something else, reminding her how much she's flip-flopped, because that's what they do. They have to say something. And there's almost nothing to say other than Americans in 1960, and now I've checked it, apparently this is also 2009. Wow, big difference. Ate about 1,000 pounds of food a year, right? So if you take that down, you'll find out that would have been about 2.5 pounds a week. Now we eat 2,000 pounds. That's it. 2,000 pounds of food a year, and so we're eating 5 pounds of food every week. Now, if someone can't see that we are simply overeating, and that has led to this food noise that all these people have experienced, and this insatiable thread in their head that they have to eat, they're hungry, 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 and of course it's there because their hormones are talking to one another and telling the brain that the person is hungry. Physiologically, they're not hungry. They probably have 50 to 100 pounds on their body. They've got onboard calories to use, and nevertheless, they're tortured by this. Tortured. And yet there is never, ever an article on any food, whether it's, promoting it, oh, protein, eat more protein, or don't eat any of this or whatever, that ever mentions how much of something you should eat. Never, never, never. I did say once a long time ago, must have been 15 years ago, that when they release their annual or every few years list, the government, the U.S. government, of what you should eat. We just had a release with Kennedy. They never say eat less. Now, of course, now everyone is saying eat less, but they mean eat fewer. That's fewer, not less calories, which of course is terrible. That makes the body that's so messed up think, uh-oh, another problem. We're going to hold on to the fat. They don't think that when you have less quantity, the body likes less quantity. It's a machine. And all these hormones have been wrecked by stretching the stomach and constant inconsistency of starving, then eating, then binging, then snacking, then on and on and on. Everything that is considered now to be the way people are, when nobody ever was like that. And frankly, snacking, as I've said many times, when I grew up, I was born in 1941. I mean, no adult did that. It was be considered tacky. Plus, we didn't have that much food because we had rationing food during World War II. But anyway, we all know as citizens in America that we pay a lot to subsidize agriculture. The last thing I saw was that it was $9 billion a year to subsidize farms who grow stuff. And apparently the Department of Agriculture in the U.S. is funded over $80 billion. I don't know exactly why and all the details, but obviously right from the beginning, when they started the low fat, everything is about how do we get people to shop, buy, eat, repeat, shop, buy, eat, repeat. And that's all it's ever been. And when you start to look at whatever a journalist tells you that you should eat more of and do more of it and whatever, and of course exercise makes you hungry, so that's another way to sell food, it always has been, and drinking lots of water makes you feel like you're washing away the calories, so therefore you're purifying yourself, so therefore you can binge. Everything is money. Remember, it's America. Everything is money. Everything is coming up with something to grab onto. Somebody can write an article and people will spend money. I remember, and I was thinking of it only yesterday, I'd been in Whole Foods, which is my market right in my apartment building, and I saw some blueberries and they looked pretty good. So I thought, okay, I'll get them. And yesterday I was eating some, and of course they were tasteless, totally tasteless. Now I'm supposed to believe that, and blueberries are considered healthy. In other words, healthy means if you eat them, you'll become healthy, which of course is absurd. But anyway, I find it hard to believe that something that's tasteless, and for me, I know what blueberries really taste like. I mean, I've been to other countries like Finland where they have wonderful berries. And then I had wild blueberries growing at my beach house. So I know what blueberries taste like. These don't taste like those. But I'm supposed to believe they have all kinds of nutrition. And then I have to say to myself, I'm a grown person. I'm not trying to build stronger bones 7 ways, which was one of the advertisements for Wonder Bread when I was young. I guess food has always been promoted in America for how it helps your health as opposed to tickles your palate. Anyway, so this is all exaggerated, and it's all a way to push people to buy more. You have this sense that if you don't eat a lot of food, which they say is healthy, you won't be healthy. And really, it's hard for people to understand. You take in calories to run your body, and particularly your brain. 25%, if you're using your brain, of those calories are to run your brain, right? So it's a good idea to use it. Better than getting on your Peloton, right? So, all of this stuff about nutrition and what it has in it we're really having food, if we're talking about something beyond enjoyment, which of course is the major reason, for some calories to run our body. And yes, there's hopefully some vitamins and minerals, but if you're worried about that, you could take a vitamin pill. So people have been suckered into it. Now, it's easy to sucker people into eating in America because besides shopping and buying things, people like to buy food and eat food. And that's preferable to, going to the theater or reading a book or simply sitting outside and enjoying yourself. Anyway, I'm going to do more of these because I feel there's a shift. Bill Maher had on a well-known doctor, and he's just written a book called Eat Your Ice Cream. Bill Maher, who's normally very sane about everything, is not when it comes to food or exercise. He's a wellness bitch, I'm sad to say. And he criticized this doctor, and this was a doctor who worked with President Obama on the Affordable Health Care Act. He's well known. And he said, I haven't eaten ice cream in 30 years. And this doctor was trying to say, well, you should if you want it because, it has dairy in it, protein, right? And yes, there's sugar, but he was not using the word we use in 80 Bites. The sugar is buffered by the dairy. Again, when you eat the proper way, and that's all we teach, we don't tell you what to eat, we tell you how to eat and how to orchestrate a meal. That's what 80 Bites is all about, and everyone should have the app. You'll pay for it. It's 99 cents. You're going to pay for it in the afternoon after you've used it. So, people have lost what people intuitively have done and known for us, forever, really. That things go with other things. And of course, this whole thing about alcohol and wine is just beyond absurd. But again, the government starts to see that the obesity is out of hand and people are drinking a lot. So instead of saying don't drink a lot, they all of a sudden come up with some articles that show that it's, the end of your life if you drink anything. It's poison. You're having poison. I guess someone has to tell Jesus not to turn water into wine. He's probably still doing it. You better tell him that, right? This is all about helping people to see through what to me is obvious, because I could have started in the 60s to count calories and go out running and do all that, but I always thought of it as not something I wanted to do, of course, but, it didn't make any sense. Couldn't count something I didn't see. Anyway, that's the latest. Hopefully I will find more indications that people are waking up and they're going to walk away from this stuff. Or if they read it, they're going to comment as these people did. And I'm going to keep commenting on all of these other posts that are on Substack and Medium. And at this point, I would tell you that 50% of these posts about, I gave up alcohol and it changed my life. These are not real people. They're just putting together some stuff so they can post something. But they don't realize it's damaging to people who then get upset because that's not what they're doing, and then they feel like they should be doing that, and then they are upset with themselves, and then they binge. And there's just no responsibility. They're shameless, all these people posting this crap. And of course, if you read this, all they've done is make things more complicated. It used to be, okay, you had to reduce calories and torch them. And now we have meditation and sleep and community and 10 other things, right? Because they don't know what to say, because let's face it, 70% of the U.S. population is obese, and And that means it hasn't worked. So hopefully it will work when people turn against it. Bye.